Hey everyone, I gave you the heads up last week, but the day has finally arrived. Today is World Storytelling Day. The theme for 2017 is transformation, so today I'm going to tell you my story of how I discovered I wanted to be a filmmaker. And during my story, I'm going to put up 7 different tips right here on the screen to help you tell your own story. Because as you know, we're all about storytelling here on this channel, and what better day to put it to practice than today, World Storytelling Day. I didn't really discover my passion or desire for filmmaking until senior year of college, but that's the when. The real story is how I made that discovery. The day I enrolled for my very first class at my university, I had absolutely zero desire to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a computer programmer. I loved everything about computers and technology. It was really the only job I had ever given any serious thought about, but I hadn't really seriously thought about what it would mean to be a computer programmer, or really what it would take to get the job. You see, computer programming was just part of the major computer science, and computer science was part of the engineering department. I certainly knew I was going to face math, which didn't excite me, but I really struggled with the engineering classes. The entirety of my freshman year was just rough, and for the first time in my academic career, I was failing brilliantly. I lost a scholarship, realized I would need to retake classes if I kept my major, and even if I changed my major, which I had no idea what else I would pick, it might take me more than 4 years to graduate. I felt lost and incredibly frustrated. I mean, why did I love the idea of being a computer programmer when I despised the process and practice of becoming one? And what was I supposed to do now? So I looked back on my hobbies and passions. I discovered I really only had 3 that were recurring in my life: computers, music, and home movies. Clearly, computers were not working out for me. As for music, I love it, and I always enjoyed performing, but I knew I never wanted to make it my life. I just knew, which left home movies. I always had fun working with my family and friends, making parodies and just ridiculous fun videos, but I never once thought it could be a career. It turned out that my university had a major they called electronic media, which covered video and audio production. The more I looked at it, the more it seemed like video production as a career could be a reality. So I changed my major sophomore year and started dreaming about where I would be when I graduated. The good news was that I was now part of the communication arts department, and in comparison to what I faced in the engineering department, classes were a breeze. I had been concerned about graduating in 4 years, so I ended up taking extra classes sophomore year to ensure I wouldn't fall behind, and I still got great grades. The bad news was that my degree, electronic media, wasn't very fleshed out by the university. At the end of my junior year, I was going to be short on the credit hours needed to graduate, and there weren't any more classes left for filmmaking or video production. On top of that, I still didn't know what kind of job I was going to get after college, and I felt like I needed to learn so much more. I decided I would do an independent study my senior year. I was going to produce and direct a short film. It was an exciting idea, but also felt like the entirety of 4 years and potentially the rest of my life now rested on this one short film. I had never considered myself a writer, so I got a friend to help me write a script. We worked for a few months, and then my friend had to move on to another project. The script was not finished. So another friend joined the project and took over writing. We worked a couple more months till we had a draft we liked, and then I had to start casting. And I couldn't find anyone for the roles we had written. And I was starting to realize that our script was just too big and complex for the amount of time I had left in my semester, which at that point was about a month and a half. I decided to shelf the script and I had to go back to square one. At this point, I was stressed, to say the least, but I knew I couldn't quit. I had a meeting with a good friend who was going to be my director of photography, and we discussed how we would finish the project and make something that wouldn't altogether feel was a waste of our time and anyone else involved. And after that meeting, I sat down and wrote a script. We didn't even really have time for me to write more than one draft. I wrote for specific people and for a specific location I knew I could use, the house I was living in at the time. I quickly worked with my actors and their availability to schedule our production. We would shoot for 3 days, starting the day after I was walking for graduation. I went through all the pomp and circumstance, did not get my diploma for obvious reasons, had lunch with my family in the afternoon, and then went straight back to my house to prep for our first shoot day. We had a small crew, not enough people really, but it was a miracle that I found students willing to stick around after school had ended. And they were fantastic. Since I didn't have time to prepare the way I would have wanted, most decisions and problem solving happened in the moment. The weather did not cooperate at all starting on day one and required us to rearrange our schedule on the fly. And on top of those small challenges, our shoot days were just incredibly long. I had actors falling asleep while we were setting up shots and moments when our crew would snap at each other just because they were tired. We were forcing a ton of work with not enough people into just 3 days. And we only had 3 days for one reason. On day 4, I had to move out of my house, which was the location for the film. So on the last day that we were shooting, when we finally finished up production and packed up all the gear, 2 of us had to drive 2 hours south to return the gear from where we had borrowed it. And then I had to drive 2 hours back. I didn't get back to the house that night until 4:30 in the morning. I slept for a couple hours, woke up, packed my car, and then I drove home. An entire year of work and many failed attempts to make a film led to just 3 days of grueling production and almost no sleep. In the heat of all the stress, feeling incredibly tired, unsure of whether or not I would finish or if it would even turn out remotely okay, I took a brief moment and realized I was having an absolute blast. As tired and beaten down as I had felt in the moment, I wasn't tired of filmmaking. I wasn't tired of dreaming big and working hard. That was the moment when I knew that I wanted to be a filmmaker. That's when I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. It didn't matter when I got my diploma, and it wasn't important that what my career was. I now had a dream for what my life could be. Looking back at the freshman engineering student version of me was like looking at an absolute stranger. It took me a couple weeks to finish editing and finish my short film altogether, but I did. I submitted all my work and then I finally got my diploma. And only a couple weeks later, I was packing my bags to move out to Los Angeles with no job waiting for me, no solid plan for my future, and only a couple names I could reach out to when I arrived. The only thing I did know was that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I knew that filmmaking was not easy. Pursuing your dream is not easy. You will struggle, face failure, and you will be challenged both mentally and physically. And those challenges over time can and will change you as a person. But I've found that if you love everything about the process and you continue to work hard, then you can embrace the change and you'll discover that it might be exactly what you need to make you stronger and bring you that much closer to your dreams. So that was my story, and I want to thank you for listening. I do hope that you enjoyed it. And I also hope that the example of my story and the tips that I gave you along the way really do help you tell your own story, because today is World Storytelling Day. And whatever story it is that you want to tell, I hope that you go out there and you tell it. Feel free to leave a story in the comments below or let me know what you thought of my story. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. I'd also appreciate if you subscribe to this channel because I don't want you to miss out on any future videos where we talk about story and storytelling. Go out there today, tell some stories, and I'll see you next time.